Hello, and welcome to this week's Movie Math, where, after a boffo frame where it seemed like everything was fixed, both here and abroad, now the box office is sputtering. Gosh darn it! Alright, so many of us feel that No Time to Die, those of us who've seen it, who apparently are not a lot of people, but anyway, a lot of us feel it's the second best Daniel Craig Bond movie after Casino Royale. But here it is with the second worst opening weekend for the franchise, for at least the Daniel Craig movies after Casino Royale. Why is Casino Royale so low? Well, it was the first Daniel Craig Bond movie, and nobody knew how amazing he was until, of course, the movie came out. But yeah, the last two Bonds have done stellar box office. So for this to come in so below them, even with a pandemic, whew, it's bad. All right, so we thought opening weekends were back, and this debut should put a bead of sweat on the foreheads of all studio executives and producers who have an upcoming movie who aren't named Kevin Feige. Yep, remember how last weekend I said that Bond was needed to prove that you don't need to be an MCU movie to do well at the pandemic box office? Well, it did not do that. It did not prove that. In fact, it proved the opposite. Kevin Feige's like, ha-ha! That's so crazy. Now you can see why everybody's always coming for Kevin Feige, because they're threatened. No Time to Die couldn't even match F9's debut, falling short of the very small club of blockbusters that have managed to still thrive during the pandemic. And this is particularly embarrassing for No Time to Die because it was a theaters-only release, which Hollywood was beginning to see as a silver bullet against the pandemic. Hey, you're theaters only, you're good to go. But now, I think a case could be made that Amazon, which just recently acquired MGM and the Bond franchise, maybe should have released it day and date on Amazon Prime. They're probably like, darn it! Because now it's going to have to do the traditional release model of going to PVR. Well, I don't know. These days, as Disney is demonstrating, you can do whatever the heck you want. So, although here they have to convince and keep the Broccoli's happy. Although, do they? After they made such a misfire here? Maybe this is a little bit like the Oscars, who got into trouble with ABC when their ratings dipped so low. And ABC was like, we're going to start telling you what to do. Although it's still not working out with the Oscars. All right, so anyway, the trades are trying to put a positive spin on this. The trades want the movie business to look rosy, which we totally understand. But we gotta be honest with ourselves here too, or else we're never going to fix it. So the trades are saying that the tracking has always had Bond opening at this level, and recent ticket sales and overseas box office headlines falsely inflated expectations. Well, look, you live or die by the headlines. If you're going to use said headlines to promote your movie and try and get those numbers up, well, then you got to suffer the consequences when you don't do it. So I think it's perfectly valid that we thought it was going to do better, and it did not. I think if you have better pre-sales than Venom, people are going to want to know why you opened so much lower than Venom. And we're going to talk about that, actually. It's younger moviegoers. All right, so anyway, the trades are also pointing out that, hey, this is in line with the Mission Impossible openings, and that's a highly respected franchise. It is a highly respected franchise, but it's no Bond. Bond has consistently performed better and is considerably more expensive. No Time to Die cost $250 million to make. That's crazy, especially when you look at this opening weekend. Oh my God, that's a lot of beads of sweat. And Bond movies are invested in, that's why they spent that much money on it, and expected to perform like Bond movies, not Mission Impossible movies. You can't say, oh, well, that's pretty good for a much less successful franchise. You think? Of course it is. Personally, I think No Time to Die needed a 6 in front of it this weekend to save face. The 5 is what makes it particularly devastating. Not just for Hollywood's hope for a healthy box office right now, but for the 007 franchise. There's a problem here, even beyond the pandemic box office. So what happened? People who did show up liked it, as it has solid audience scores consistent with other Daniel Craig Bond movies, and critic scores. I think the movie delivers in that regard. So why didn't people show up? Why did people say, I'm not even going to try it? Well, Bond fans are typically older, and older moviegoers are still hesitant to return to theaters right now. Some did come back. Many people said, just like Venom, that these were the first movies they were coming back to during the pandemic, so that's nice. But not enough came back. This wasn't enough. This is an interesting statistic. It was reported that 39% of No Time to Die's audience was in the coveted 18 to 34 demographic versus 64% of Venom 2's audience, which is why I heard the Barbara Broccoli and company, they want a new Bond who's actually around 30 to bring in a younger demographic. I know some of you have your hopes set on older actors, but I think they're going to go young. My pick is actually, it's like so obvious when you think about it, I think it's going to be Josh O'Connor from The Crown. That's who I would go with. I'd bulk him up. I'd say give him whatever Kumail Nanjiani took. Let's go. I guess they're healthier. Kumail Nanjiani's like, I don't want to talk about it. And you're like, yeah, I would see why not. But, a lot of actors are able to bulk up. I think, that's a whole different conversation. But the point is that O'Connor can get there, and he's got a slew of awards. I think he would be a fantastic choice. And as for the diversity of the franchise, I would up the stakes for Felix. I would make that Felix's CIA agent more on par with Bond and have him join the action. And I think that's how you fix Bond and give it to a younger audience, because you don't want to lose your older audience either, or its identity. You could also say, hey, maybe running time was an issue. Maybe that's the problem. But the two most successful films of all time are even longer. And thanks to the pandemic and a less crowded release schedule and theaters working very hard to support these movies because they want them to do well, there was no shortage of screens for Bond. Nobody was sold out of No Time to Die this weekend. I still never forget Avengers Endgame and this older couple walking up to the box office while me and my group were waiting to go in. They're like, 2 for Avengers Endgame, please. And everyone who was in the lobby just kind of looked at them like, where have you been for the last few months? This movie's been sold out, literally every single ticket in town for months. It was cute, but also sad because they had to leave. They were like, you mean we can't see the movie today? And we were like, everyone was like, you can't see it all weekend. That was really cool. That was not for those people, but that was an incredible thing to be a part of. All right, so anyway, I do feel that an unfortunate narrative took hold, which I tried to combat on Twitter, but having Lashana Lynch come across as combative in the trailers and not as the partner she quickly becomes, not making that clear, I think that, that and many other things, Daniel Craig, Cary Fukunaga, and Phoebe Waller-Bridge's efforts to modernize Bond and make him more serious, more in touch with his feelings than other people's feelings. I think a lot of fans don't like that. I think that this is, I think that Barbara Broccoli should take this is very seriously, how these box office numbers. And then I'm very sad to see that some people weaponize some of the more, I think some positive stuff came out of this. I wouldn't totally get rid of this because I like these elements. But I think that they need to bring back some of the fun flippantness of Bond because that's clearly, missing. And now some box office numbers are missing. Then, like Black Widow, I think it also just took too long for this movie to come out. The movie was supposed to come out in April 2020. Also, while some of you were like, hey, Daniel Craig has made it clear that he misspoke or was misquoted, but I know a lot of people who still bring that up to this day, and I think his negative attitude overall towards the franchise, even if he has changed his mind since, has just stuck with fans and taken a toll and put a bit of a pall over his movies. So think about that before you complain about the franchise that you're in. How'd you like to not be in it? Or to be responsible for hurting it? That would be even worse, huh? All right, so thankfully, No Time to Die's global numbers paint a more golden picture, as the film in just 2 weeks has already passed 300 million, a pandemic record to do it that quickly, and is demonstrating very strong holds in several countries. And of course, the movie hits China October 29th, although Bond isn't huge in the Middle Kingdom. Spectre did 83.5, and Skyfall, the $1 billion Bond movie, only did 59.3 in China. Although still, 50 to 100 million extra, maybe they'll love it in China and it'll do a little better. I mean, they'll take that, please. They got to get that number up. As for both Spectre and Skyfall, their domestic box office counted for less than 30% of their overall hauls. Isn't that amazing? So there's still hope for No Time to Die to end strong, as it's the second most expensive Bond movie ever made, and they need to at least recoup that expense. That doesn't even include advertising. Remember, you should add about another 100 million for that. And it still shakes out to about getting 50% of the overall global box office. So they need like I don't know, 600 million to at least save face. They'd still be operating at a loss, but their streaming revenue coming down the line. And it would be great if it got to around 700 to 800 million, which isn't impossible because look at F9. Look at that. Well, nobody was looking. It got to 716.5 and everyone laughs at Vin Diesel. His family of fans showed up. Daniel Craig and James Corden did a really funny bit doing blockbusters, and they made fun of Vin Diesel, and it was pretty funny. But Vin Diesel's laughing last and all the way to the bank. There's also streaming again, where Bond could do boffo business, and I'll be very curious to see how long the window is, because while it seems to not be doing great in the domestic market, you might want to get it out quickly. I think they don't want that and piracy to undercut the very strong overseas number. So we'll see if they'll probably do the 45-day window, but I think it could do very well on streaming. I'm curious, are you waiting to watch Bond on streaming, this new Bond, this last Daniel Craig Bond, or are you just not going to watch it at all? As for last week's surprise box office hero, a real surprise, I still can't quite believe it. Venom 2 fell 65% in its second weekend, 10% more than the first movie, but about on par with other pandemic hits. Remember, the drops have been big so far. Although Shang-Chi, of course, held 10% stronger, which is why it's such a special movie. Although still, that's why, overseas and the Asian box office, Shang-Chi not going to China, but F9 has like double the box office of Shang-Chi globally. So it's real important. And like with Bond, Venom is doing very well overseas as well, where it's not even getting started until next weekend. We'll really get a picture of Venom's global prospects then. Now, remember, Hollywood is now looking to get totals back up where they need to be. Universal came out the last week or so saying that they expect box office to be off about 20% for a while. But when's that going to happen? Because that would be a lot better than what we're dealing with now. These totals are significantly off still. As for the rest of the top 10, look at this. Addams Family 2 held pretty well considering it's also available still on PVOD, where it's doing very well on PVOD. It's in second place. Shang-Chi had the best hold in the top 10. I love that movie. Well, The Many Saints of Newark on HBO Max simultaneously and has very poor audience scores and critics not good, not well received. It was awful. Suffered the biggest drop. This is why you get your deals, by the way. David Chase signed a lucrative deal before the movie came out. I don't know if they would have signed the same deal after with these numbers. But again, you're rolling the dice. You either get a guaranteed deal before it comes out and you get something based on the anticipation, or you say, I think it's going to blow those anticipated numbers out of the water and I'll get even more. But David Chase made the right decision. I am watching it on HBO Max, though, The Sopranos. I had never seen it, and I talked about how that made me not enjoy The Many Saints of Newark. I enjoyed it even less because I'd never seen the show, and many of you were like, you got to watch The Sopranos. And it was a little slow in the beginning, but I'm towards the end of season 1, and I am hooked. It's phenomenal. So thank you to everyone who really encouraged me to go back and check it out. I love HBO Max. It's such a good service. All right, speaking of streaming, let's head over to Nielsen, our favorite late-to-the-party numbers, which are both fascinating and sometimes make no sense. But anyway, for the week of September 6th, Netflix once again dominated, managing to push down Hulu's new hits, 9 Perfect Strangers and Only Murders in the Building, which are still doing well, but not as well as they did when they debuted. While What If, with the zombie episode no less, with zombies, actually dropped back down to 9th place. Whew! Meanwhile, with movies, I'm absolutely delighted to see Kate in the top spot. That was an amazing movie. Phenomenal soundtrack. I loved it. And another girl power action win for Netflix after Gunpowder Milkshake also debuted at number 1 over the summer. And Cinderella, I told you this was a good movie. Cinderella is still number 2, Amazon Cinderella. While, you might argue whether or not it's good, and you can, but you can't argue as to whether or not it's successful. It's very successful for Amazon. While surprisingly, older Disney Plus movies, which have been consistently in the top 10, were pushed out, with only recent releases Cruella and Luca remaining, thanks to Netflix's constant surge of content. They're unrelenting, which is fabulous for subscribers. But this was the week of September 11th, by the way, and it's nice to see Worth here. That was a devastating film that was tough to watch, but it was amazing. Really, really well done. I loved it, and I'm glad to see people checking it out. On Netflix this week, Squid Game, still number 1. Let's see how long it can go. A true phenomenon. I'm so excited to see what Netflix decides to do after this, because they ain't letting this go, nor should they. Maid looks to be a real sleeper hit. I haven't watched this yet. It's definitely on my list, but I am watching The Sopranos first, which is, a show that's been off the air for a long time. But I'm going to watch Maid. I'm going to watch it. Are any of you watching it? Is it that good? It surged to number 2 after the previous 2 weeks where it's been in the top 5. I think even actually in the top 3. This week, Dave Chappelle's controversial new special is number 3. The Guilty is also still doing very well, while Netflix is keeping us thrilled for the Halloween season with new teen horror flick from Sean Levy at number 6, and Midnight Mass is still in the top 10. I hope Midnight Mass can stay in the top 10 all the way through Halloween, but it's getting towards the bottom there, and Netflix has a lot more stuff coming, of course, because they aren't stepping off the neck of the competition. Also, once again, Netflix scores with an all-time favorite as Titanic hit the service and debuted at number 7. I wish I'd known it was coming to Netflix because I recently paid to, what was it, $4 to rent it, but it would have been better to watch it for free. But I recently rewatched Titanic over the pandemic. So good. So sad, though. So sad. And what a loud sound design. I watched it really late at night, and I had to ride that volume control because it got loud. All right, so on iTunes, M. Night's Old finally hit PVOD. That took forever. Woo! But was unable to unseat Free Guy or Addams Family 2. It's still in 3rd place, though. That's very good. And New Western Old Henry, which is basically straight to PVOD, it's a surprise hit for Tim Blake Nelson. Did anyone watch that? I don't know how people even found that. I have so much to watch. I don't know if I'm going to watch that. And the box office is reflected here with both Venom and the last Bond movie, Spectre, in the top 10 as well. As for what's coming out this week, another surge of content. The Last Duel is a theaters-only release on Friday, while Halloween Kills will hit theaters and Peacock Premium subscription service. That they're doing a day-and-date release. I think that's very smart. I know people my family's planning to watch Halloween. They don't even like the Halloween movies, but that's their Halloween night film. I'm going to be watching it early this week, and my review will go up. I'm hoping to get it up on Wednesday. And I'll do a spoiler review as well. On streaming, on Monday, Netflix dropped season 2 of The Babysitter's Club. The first season was excellent, but again, there's just so much competition these days. I don't know if I'm going to have time to personally watch it myself. Tuesday, the new Chucky show hits USA Sci-Fi. Usually I don't cover cable, but Chucky's a big name, and they've been advertising it a lot. And more episodes of the movies that made us on Netflix. I didn't know this was happening. They don't advertise anything on Netflix, but what a crop of films in this new batch. Aliens, RoboCop, Halloween. We got to watch that before Halloween, right? Coming to America, and more. I love that. I still haven't finished Behind the Attraction. I love this stuff, though. There's so much stuff to watch. How are you prioritizing it? While on Wednesday, Hulu hopes to have another hit with another star-studded cast in Dopesick. I got to watch that, too. I'm definitely watching that. Thursday has new Paramount Plus series Guilty Party with Kate Beckinsale. I'm not watching that unless it's like somehow a runaway hit. And on Friday, Amazon has the first 4 episodes of I Know What You Did Last Summer. Sci-Fi has another new show with Day of the Dead. I included that because it's, again, it's cable, but it's like genre-y. And Netflix drops the entire 3rd season of You, which I will also watch, but I'm not quite sure when. And some foreign films as their movie of the week. So that's this week's Movie Math. What have you been watching? What do you plan to watch at some point in your life? I have a list that I have on my phone I just started because I don't want to forget this stuff. I got to add Dopesick to it. I have Maid and I have You on it right now. And Dopesick's good though because it's weekly, so that's a little bit easier to watch. And I need something to replace 9 Perfect Strangers, which I enjoyed having on Wednesday. But anyway, and how do you feel about Bond, Venom, and the box office overall with these latest numbers? Share your thoughts down below, subscribe today, and of course, as always, you can check out some more videos right now.